Takuan Soho was a Zen monk and philosopher whose influence stretched far beyond the confines of religion and martial arts into the very soul of early modern Japan. Though his name may not carry the same weight as that of Miyamoto Musashi or Sen no Rikyu, Takuan's legacy is shrouded in a certain mystique, a legacy that continues to echo through the ages. His philosophy seeped into Zen Buddhism, Japanese swordsmanship, and the very ethos of Bushido. But behind this legacy, there lies a story of exile, defiance, and a mind unshackled by the conventions of his time. Takuan's life is not simply a tale of wisdom. It is a story of rebellion against the status quo, one that carved a path through the intersection of power, spirituality, and personal insight, ideas that resonate even today, centuries later. Born in 1573, as the Sengoku Warring States period drew its bloody final breaths, Takuan grew up in a time of relentless conflict among feudal lords, daimyo. This was an era where shifting alliances and treacherous power plays marked the very essence of survival. The samurai, masters of the sword, held the key to the rise and fall of entire clans. But as the fractured land slowly united under the rule of Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and finally Tokugawa Ieyasu, the samurai found themselves caught between old warlike traditions and the dawning of a new, more stable world. Amidst these turbulent transitions, Takuan, just a boy, began his journey into the depths of Zen. While samurai began to turn their swords toward administration and culture, something about Zen Buddhism intrigued them. Its clarity, its direct insight into life and death, its unrelenting discipline. It was a path that, for someone like Takuan, seemed inevitable. A brilliant, devout youth, he became a Rinzai monk before his teens, joining a tradition that would test his mind and spirit like few others. The Rinzai monastery demanded strict meditation, intense sutra study, and the confronting of koans, mystical riddles designed to push the mind beyond all logic. And in this crucible, Takuan's mind was forged, a mind that would both astonish and unsettle those in power. As he grew into adulthood, Takuan's unyielding commitment to Zen principles made him a figure of intrigue, even among the highest of ranks. His refusal to compromise, even when confronted by the powerful figures of his time, set him apart. But it was not until 1603, when Tokugawa Ieyasu ascended to the shogunate, that the true nature of Takuan's journey would begin to unfold. The Edo period ushered in an era of stability, but it also came with its own hidden dangers, social hierarchies, political manipulation, and a growing interference in spiritual matters. And Takuan, ever the maverick, refused to bow to the rigid demands of the new Bakufu military government, which sought to control the temples and religious leaders. Takuan's rebellion came to a head in 1629 with the infamous Purple Robe Incident, a seemingly trivial dispute over ceremonial robes that concealed something far more significant. Takuan, in his wisdom, saw through the political ploys and had the courage to speak out, questioning the shogunate's meddling in monastic affairs. For this act of insubordination, Takuan was exiled to Dewa in the far north of Japan. Exile in those days meant oblivion, severing one's ties to power and leaving them to fade into obscurity. But Takuan did not fade. He embraced isolation and turned it into something more, a canvas for the mind. In his exile, Takuan wrote. He wrote letters to samurai and monks, distilling the essence of Zen into clear, direct language. Away from the watchful eyes of the Bakufu, Takuan refined the teachings that would forever change martial arts and spirituality. It was here, in the quiet of his exile, that Takuan articulated what would become his most profound contribution, the concept of the unfettered mind. But there was more to this concept than mere mental clarity. It was a revelation, a practice of freedom beyond the shackles of fear, pride, and hesitation. Takuan's teachings, often whispered in hushed tones among warriors, spread across the land, eventually forming the core of both spiritual and martial training. At the heart of his philosophy lay a profound truth. Fixation is the enemy of clarity. When the mind becomes stuck on fear, pride, or a particular course of action, it loses its responsiveness. Drawing on Zen's Mushin no Shin, mind of no mind, Takuan taught that one must remain fluid, unfettered, and unbound. For a samurai, freezing in the face of an opponent's sword could be the end. Takuan's famous words to the shogunate's swordmaster Yagyu Munenori echoed with a chilling truth. If your mind stops at the opponent's sword, you'll be defeated in that instant. But this principle went beyond the battlefield. Takuan compared the ideal state of mind to a mirror that reflects everything, but holds on to nothing. This metaphor was not just for warriors, it was for anyone facing stress, uncertainty, or difficult decisions. It was a lesson in how to remain untouched by the chaos of life while still engaging with it fully. During Takuan's lifetime, Japan moved from a state of constant war to a time when the samurai identity began to evolve. Bushido, once a code focused solely on battle, now began to embrace moral and spiritual dimensions. Takuan's guidance became crucial in shaping this transformation. He taught that a warrior should cut through illusions, fear, pride, anger, just as precisely as they might wield a sword. But this was not about avoiding error in combat alone. It was about acting with clarity, free from ego and rage. Takuan's contributions were not confined to philosophy. His Zen calligraphy, with bold strokes that expressed spontaneity and presence, became as legendary as his writings. His practice of Zen transcended the formal, blending high philosophy with the mundane. It was said that he even popularized takuanzuke, a simple dish of pickled daikon radish, an everyday item, yet one imbued with the same Zen spirit that guided his philosophy. But his true influence came from the way he integrated Zen into all aspects of life. Calligraphy, tea ceremonies, martial practice, and even household chores all became fields for honing presence of mind. He urged people not to separate the sacred from the mundane. For Takuan, the practice of Zen wasn't limited to the meditation hall or the dojo. It was in every moment, every action, no matter how small. In the end, Takuan's network of influential friends and his reputation led to his return from exile, a return that would mark the final chapter of his remarkable life. By then, his writings had grown beyond the borders of Japan, and his teachings had reached the ears of those in power. No longer seen as a rebel, Takuan was now a revered advisor, sought after for his wisdom. When Takuan passed away in 1645, he left behind a body of work that transcended his time. His teachings influenced Zen practice, martial arts, and the broader cultural fabric of Japan. Today, his principles of mental fluidity and the mirror-like mind resonate deeply with modern practitioners of Kendo, Iaido, and other martial disciplines. Surprisingly, his ideas align closely with contemporary sports psychology and mindfulness, which emphasize the importance of flow states and freedom from overthinking. Takuan's legacy is not just in his words, but in his ability to see beyond the ordinary, to cut through the noise of life and act with clarity and compassion. His teachings remain timeless because they address the universal barriers we all face: mental fixation, stress, and the need for ethical guidance. He showed us that the mind must remain unfettered, free from the chains of fear and attachment. In his writings, in his calligraphy, and even in the simple act of pickling radishes, Takuan embodies the union of spiritual depth, practical wisdom, and ethical conviction. Takuan Soho's life is a testament to the power of the unfettered mind. He teaches us that true clarity comes when we release our mental knots and embrace the present moment with integrity, whether on the battlefield, in the kitchen, or anywhere life leads us.